Clarence, let's touch on this before we get to the state of the Cowboys themselves. Obviously today, sad news coming from the organization with Gil Brandt passing away today. Of course, 29 seasons, 5 Super Bowl appearances, and the vice president of player personnel during one of the most illustrious careers in all of the National Football League passing away today. Your thoughts and just the reflections on Gil Brandt and how you have covered this team and what he meant to this organization.
Well, I mean, everybody's talking about what he meant, and certainly he was part of the original triplets, I like to call them. Everybody talks about the Troy, Emmett, and Michael, but the original triplets was Gil Brandt, Tex Graham, and Tom Landry that built this franchise and Tournament America's team. And Gil was part of the original triplets that made the Cowboys into the worldwide phenomenon that they became. And he certainly was part of that. We know about his, being the scouting, the innovations. He's the father of modern day scouting, finding players from black colleges, finding players who played basketball, and turning them into football players. He just, was ahead of his time, and he meant so much to the Cowboys. To find out the undrafted free agents, from the Cliff Harris's to the Drew Pearsons, who became Hall of Famers. I mean, that was what he was. And after his career with the Cowboys, after he got fired by Jerry Jones, he went on and became that for the National Football League. It was just an icon. And, you talk to Bill Belichick, everyone has such great respect for Gil Brandt. But just as a media member, as someone who came on the scene, he was a friend to everybody. You couldn't cover the Cowboys, talk about the Cowboys, like to talk to coaches, like to talk to media. He would always pick up your phone. He knew your name. He remembered everything about you, where you grew up. Same thing with the players. I mean, I talked to his wife today, and he was just so larger than life. He loved sports. He loved football. He loved his family, and he's going to be missed.
How much interpersonal interaction did you end up having with Gil? And is there a particular memory that makes you smile on this day?
I mean, there's so many memories. I've been covering Cowboys since '97, and I've had interactions with Gil several times a year, multiple times a year ever since. And whether it's in the Cowboys press box, at a practice, in the locker room, at the combine. He's such a huge part of the combine and making the NFL scouting combine what it is. You write draft stories, you talk to Gil. Or you write stories about old Cowboys, you talk to Gil. I mean, he was the encyclopedia. And so, and again, he's always put this far. I mean, I know his number by heart. You don't know a lot of people's numbers by heart, okay?
Especially not now.
No. I know Gil's number by heart, and that's how much I called it. That's how much, we talked. He would call me, and it was just, again, and I'm nobody, and he's, Gil Brandt, who's and talked to a million reporters well before me and well after me, and but he was like that way with everybody.
Gil Brandt passing away at the age of 91 today, of course, part of the Pro Football Hall of Fame class of 2019, 29 fantastic seasons, and of course, one of the titans of the game when it came to, of course, scouting and finding talent across the National Football League. Clarence Hill Jr., the Fort Worth Star-Telegram, joining us here on the Get Right with Reggie KG here on 105 through the Fan. Less than 1 week away, let's say we're exactly 1 week away from the start of the NFL season, and of course the Cowboys playing on September 10th. You have covered this team for a long time. Is this one of the more anticipated seasons in memory, given what could be on the horizon for this team this upcoming year?
I mean, I guess in memory, I mean, they've all been anticipated, well anticipated. I mean, I go back to 96 or 97 after the run, and when they didn't think the run was over, and they were anticipating seasons. The year after they lose to the Giants in 07, you thought 08 would be the year they learned their lesson after the trip to Cabo, and their team was 13-3, and they're going to run it back. That was an anticipated season. Certainly the year after, the Dez non-catch, and they were just so close. And you think that, well, the next year they're going to get it done. That was 2014. That 2015, they're going to get it done. And after the non-catch in Green Bay, and everybody's coming back. And then, of course, that didn't happen, and Romo got hurt. And 1 year later, Romo's gone, and Dak's gone. So there have been a lot of most anticipated seasons. I would certainly say that this time they have as good a shot as any, to try to break this streak and get that monkey off their back, because there's no big bad wolf. in a sense. This is about them. Certainly I think this may be the most complete team they've had on offense and defense. We still don't know about the kicker, but this is the most complete team they've had on offense and defense. I mean, this defense is probably as good as any defense they've had since those Super Bowl title teams of the 1990s. When you add to what they have on offense and the potential they have on offense, this is one of the most complete teams they've had. But again, you look at the landscape of the NFC, certainly the Cowboys, Eagles, and 49ers are the three best teams. But there's no big bad wolf. There's no Aaron Rodgers, no Brett Favre, no Tom Brady, nobody saying you can't beat them. Certainly the Eagles should be favored, but there's no big bad wolf. The Cowboys have as good a shot as any of those teams to break that streak and get to the Super Bowl.
Absolutely. And we've seen the way that the roster's been put together now. It's kind of whole now. Was there anything that kind of, surprised you or anything that you looked at sideways when you ultimately saw the way that this roster was constructed? Because I know I'm still looking at the linebackers like, okay, all right, that's it.
Well, if you watch the linebackers in camp, it wasn't a surprise. Everybody, certainly you're talking about on cut down day when they had them with the linebackers, but there was questions. There was questions about Jabril Cox. The light never came on. And so as you got through camp, you saw those other safeties started showing up and making plays and winning jobs, and no linebacker really stepped up to win a job outside of the obvious ones. It wasn't a surprise, and you had to keep Wanya Thomas, you had to keep Marquise Bell, and to go with Izzy and other guys that have already proven themselves. So I wouldn't say it was a surprise. I think certainly they will probably still look for linebacker help. You don't want to have to make a living. That's one thing they were excited about Overshawn, because he was going to take some of the pressure off of the linebacker responsibilities off of Javon Curse and do some of the things and then their big nickel defense that you would ask one of the safeties to do. But no, this defense, this team, from a starting group, I don't see a lot of holes. I don't see a lot of questions. Maybe some of the depth issues on the offensive line. We've talked about the linebacker, maybe some, stuff like that. Maybe there's some questions in backup running back. But and again, I talked about kicker. But this team is ready to roll.
Year 4 of the Mike McCarthy era here when it comes to the Dallas Cowboys. He seems, obviously, as each year has gone on, more and more comfortable with his role and what he's asked to do every single year. What are your feelings about Mike McCarthy now as obviously taking over play caller and what that means for this offense this year? And is he making the right move and taking over the play calling for this team?
And let's add more comfortable with Jerry Jones and how he handles things. Because it was such a national narrative. Jerry didn't talk to Mike about the decision to make the trade. Mike is fine with that. And he's not getting his panties in the wild over the national perspective that he wasn't clued in. He's focused on being offensive coordinator, getting his team right. And so I think that's a good step in the right direction, because you can get caught up in egos and all the other stuff of how that looks and how the perception of all of that. And he's fine with that, and that's good news. Yeah, I don't think he's got enough credit for the job he's done. You look at this team, and they've won more games the past 2 years than any team in football except the Chiefs and Andy Reid with 24 wins, back-to-back 12-win seasons. Certainly his first season was marred by the loss of Dak Prescott, for 10 games. And so I don't think he's got enough credit for the job he's done. But by the same token, we all know he's possibly coaching for his job this year. After all the success he's had, and again, not enough credit for the job he's done, but he was not brought here to be Jason Garrett. He was brought here to be Jimmy Johnson. He was brought here to get the Cowboys back to the Super Bowl, because he's won Super Bowl before. And so if the Cowboys don't take a step further in the playoffs, his job can be on the line, for sure.
Chill, before we let you go, I'd be remiss if I did not ask, one of the preeminent voices on Cowboys who kind of has probably as good of an understanding of how the organization works as anybody, about this, obviously groundbreaking move to go get Trey Lance. Like, from your perspective, what do you view as the plan that the Cowboys have in place for his progression, not just through the season, but however long they hold him?
Well, let's be honest. It's not groundbreaking. let's go there. Okay.
I've seen his name a lot on TV, so I figured that was the way we talk about it,
right? Media, because of his background. If they went and drafted, used their 4th round pick on a quarterback next year, a developmental quarterback, we wouldn't be doing it. It wouldn't be the same thing. We're all guilty. First day of practice, we're all taking pictures of Trey Lance. We're all focused on Trey Lance. We're all doing it because that's what everybody's talking about. We're feeding the beast. and the beast is thirsty, regarding this story, but they have openly talked about getting a developmental quarterback. They talked about doing it in the draft last year. It's something they've openly talked about, getting a quarterback. And here's a chance to get one on the cheap. And Jerry likes to get quarterbacks on the cheap. He got Romo on the cheap. He got Dak on the cheap. He doesn't want to tank and be at the top of the draft because they're 1-15 or 1-16 or whatever the number is. He wants to get a quarterback on the cheap. And again, I don't think it's a threat to Dak Prescott, as everybody's trying to make it out to be. This guy's played 4 games. He's thrown 400 passes in his career going back to college. He is definitely a work in progress and needs and truly the definition of a developmental quarterback. But yes, he has some tools that people thought enough for him to be a 3rd overall pick in the draft. And so those are things you like to work with. You like to, if I'm going to, find a diamond in the rough, I mean, you want, have something to work with. And he has the tools that you want to work with, but it's a long way to go. Right now it's a 2-year look. And in 2025, you have to decide what you want to do, really 2024. So you decide you want to pick up that 5th-year option, certainly not picking up the 5th-year option. You got to decide what you're going to do with Dak Prescott and all that other stuff. But this year, he's going to be the number 3 quarterback. He's going to learn. He's going to stay after practice like he's done, work on his footwork, work on the skills, and all the other stuff, and learn from Dak Prescott and behind Cooper Rush. Next year, if he develops, he could be the backup to Dak.
Now, I can't let you go without mentioning what's about to happen on Saturday. I know this matchup is very personal for you between Rice and Texas, not just because of what's on the football field, but obviously a lot of familial ties given what's happening in your life these days with Rice and Texas. Tell me why Texas makes the college football playoff this year.
Because it's time. It's almost like with the Cowboys. It's time.
Now, come on, Clarence. Come on with something stronger than that. It's time. Come on now.
They have the quarterback. They have a complete defense. They have what they haven't had in a long time. A lot of NFL players on this roster. And their receiving core is as good as any in the country. It is explosive. And Quinn Ewers is the real deal at quarterback. And it's really the 2nd year of playing a full season since his junior year in high school. So they're going to roll Rice, and it's time for them. People think that Texas has always been the favorite. This is the first year Texas has been the favorite in the Big 12 since maybe 2009.
Mm-hmm.
Something like that.
Well, they're always picked. Well, no, they're not. They haven't been. They haven't had a team like this, and then they haven't. The situation has been set up for them to really realize their expectations. This, will they? Again, it's like with the Cowboys. Until they do it, I can't predict them to get it done because I can't predict something I've never seen before. But they have everything is in place for them to do it, and they will beat Alabama. Let's
okay.
They beat Alabama next weekend. I will be at that game. I'm going to Tuscaloosa on my way to New York for the Cowboys season opener. So I'm going to spend that Saturday in Tuscaloosa and fly up to New York on that Sunday. But they're beating Alabama.
Chill said one of these teams has a quarterback and offensive line continuity, and it's not Alabama.
It's definitely not Alabama.
Look, I just heard all them frequent flyer miles he about to get, between Tuscaloosa and the Big Apple in New York. Clarence getting it in on his flights to and from everywhere he goes. Clarence, as always, my man, I appreciate the time. Best of luck this weekend, man, and look forward to talking to you soon, man. I appreciate you.
I appreciate you guys. Thank you, man.